All right, I think we're live. Hello and welcome back to the football rundown. We're here with the match preview live for the first time. I think we don't really usually do the match preview as a live one, but I thought Christmas special and all that, and also as well, just want to say not only is it a Christmas special, but it's a bit of a special for this channel as well because it's just hit 1,000 subscribers. So a huge achievement. I think that it's what I set out to do at the beginning of this year was to get to 1,000. I've now done that. So yeah, very very happy with that. I want to say big thanks to everyone who's watched, along the way, subscribed along the way, been involved in commenting along the way. Very very happy to have done that because that's exactly what I wanted to do by the end of the year, and we've done it with a couple of days to spare as well. So I thought, why not get this match preview before Christmas as a live one. Obviously, it was a little bit of a last-minute decision to go live, so not everyone will have necessarily tuned in live, but it's fine because people can tune in afterwards, midway through, and also watch it once it goes up as well. But yeah, very, very happy with that. Big target for the channel, and obviously New Year, loads of ideas coming up as well. Hopefully everyone can hear me all right as well. So yeah, match preview. Obviously, it's a little bit of a disappointing way to be going into Boxing Day. Obviously, the news of Louis Barry, which we spoke about on the channel yesterday, it is disappointing. It's hugely disappointing. I do want to talk about Huddersfield. I do want to talk about County versus Huddersfield, but I don't think you can ignore the Louis Barry situation. I suppose the one good thing is that we now have that clarity, which I think we really needed. But I thought there was some interesting comments. I've not watched it completely yet, that interview with Simon Wilson, of course, the Director of Football at Stockport County. But he made some interesting comments in the bits that I did listen to, where he talked about the fact that they've been in dialogue for quite a sort of lengthy period of time with Aston Villa. This hasn't come out of the blue for County, this news, even though it's only just reached us as fans. So they've been aware of the situation from Aston Villa's point of view for a long time, which I'd imagine actually would have been the case. I think we have built up a good relationship with them, of course. I think we took Rico Richards on loan as well last season from them. There's even reports that we could potentially end up bringing another Aston Villa player in on loan, possibly as a Louis Barry replacement as well. So that's interesting. But I think what's really important is replacing him will be. I think that'll be season defining. I think how we replace Louis Barry in January will define how our season ends up going, because I can say pretty confidently if he'd stayed for the majority of the season, the full season, I think County would have been there or thereabouts for promotion places. So either in the automatics or just outside of that, and obviously end up in the playoffs. I think when you take him out of the equation, I don't know where County would be without his goals, is basically what I'm saying. Cal Wotton's the second top scorer with 6 league goals. It's really not enough. So it is going to be very interesting. It's a weird one because I kind of have mixed emotions on it. It's horrible that we're losing a player like that. But at the same time, there's also a little bit of excitement about, I wonder who we're going to bring in. So that'll be very interesting. But as I say, we've got Huddersfield coming up on Boxing Day. I'm doing this with a couple of days beforehand because obviously everyone's going to be busy around Christmas and that Boxing Day. We're obviously at the game, so vlog will be out for that one afterwards. But yeah, obviously Huddersfield are doing quite well at the moment at this point in time. Just 3 points off us though, 4th in the table. We're currently 5th. They're in decent form as well, Huddersfield. We know that they're tough opposition to go up against, obviously relegated from the Championship last season, just like Birmingham and, of course, Rotherham as well. But I think it's fair to say that 2 of those teams are doing better than the other. Obviously, Rotherham are having a difficult season in League One. That doesn't come as too much of of a surprise for me, but might be for some of us. But as I say, Huddersfield are in good form in recent games. In fact, I've got it here. What is their record like? So Huddersfield are 3 points ahead of Stockport County with a game in hand. The Terriers are enjoying an unbeaten spell in League One, with their last defeat coming on the 1st of October when they lost 1-0 to Birmingham City. Since then, they've had some strong wins, such as a 2-0 win over Barnsley, a 2-1 away win over Mansfield Town, and most recently a 4-0 battering against Cambridge United on Friday night. So there we go. They've had some good wins in that time, and against some good opposition as well. How this game's going to pan out against County, I'm never going to back County to lose a game. I'm always going to believe they can get a result from a game. I don't think a point would be the worst point away from home against Huddersfield at this point in time in the season. So yeah, I think if we can come away with a point, obviously, ideally you want to win because potentially we could go ahead of them. But yeah, I don't think a point would be the worst result by any means from this game. Huddersfield as well also have goal scorers in their ranks. I think it's Ben Wiles and Callum Marshall, who's on loan from West Ham. They've both scored 6 league goals, I believe, so far this season for Huddersfield. Josh Karoma as well has chipped in with 5 goals as well, whilst their centre-back, Matty Pearson, has also scored 4 in the league this season. The reason why that's interesting to me is because it shows that they've got goals across the team. It's completely different to, let's say, the situation at Stockport County, where at this point in time, you've got Louis Barry scoring goals, and after that, there's a huge drop-off. Would you rather be a team which has 5 or 6 players which can score maybe 5 or 6 goals between them, or each, sorry, or would you rather be a team which has a player like Louis Barry that can score 15 goals individually, but then the rest not really chipping with goals? And I think ideally you'd be in the position that Huddersfield are in, where they've got multiple players that can chip in with. They don't only get 10, 15 goals individually, but they might get 5 or 6 goals individually, and you total that up across the whole pitch, then you've got more chance of scoring goals, because even they've scored just as many league goals, by the way, as County so far this season, I believe. So both methods work in their own different ways, but that's the problem when you rely on on one player so much, is that an injury, or let's say like in Louis Barry's situation, being recalled, there's a panic that sets in. Whereas if you've got 5 or 6, 7 players that can score each 5 or 6 goals, one gets injured, one goes missing, you've still got a load of other players which can still chip in with goals. And it also gives them more threats across the pitch for the opposition to worry about. Whereas it feels like at this point in time with Stockport County, you go in, if you're an opposition team, you know that Louis Barry's the threat, you double up on him, you make it difficult like what Birmingham have done. I think Stevenage did it a little bit as well. And where's the rest of the threats in the team? They're not there. So I think that that's something County need to work on. Louis Barry going is obviously going to be a huge disappointment. It feels like at this point in time it's going to crumble the season for us, but we have to try and find a positive from it and turn it into a positive. And hopefully what can possibly come from this is that we can bring in 2 players on either side, or a player on either side, which can allow us to be more balanced as a team, and maybe be in a situation whereby we can pull the opposition from side to side. Whereas I think at this point in time, the big emphasis is on dealing with Louis Barry, and if you deal with him, you're basically going to stop Stockport from scoring. So that's how I feel about it. I think it'll be interesting to see, because the fact that they've got a couple of goals each, throughout the team, I'm not really sure who that one standout player is to keep an eye on from Huddersfield. So yeah, I think that's basically what covered. 34 league goals each, I'm pretty sure. There's actually a game as well kicking off as it stands right now between Crawley and Birmingham, which should be about 10 minutes into the game. I completely forgot, but it was on when I planned to do this. I'm sure I'll keep an eye on the result of that at some point. But yeah, I just thought Boxing Day round the corner, Christmas round the corner, more importantly, first of all. And why not go live? Why not just do this a little bit differently to usual? And then, of course, especially hitting that 1,000 mark as well, which I think I'm still on, unless one person's just unsubscribed to knock me back down again. But I'd like to think that people wouldn't do that really. Yeah, obviously Huddersfield relegated last season. I think they're going to be there or thereabouts come the end of the season in League One. I think they're probably a sort of position or 2 lower than they would have probably expected to have been at this point in the season, or where they'd like to be at this point in the season. I think going into the season, there was very much a feeling of Birmingham will run away with it and be top of the table. Huddersfield will be sort of a close second to that. Obviously, that's not panned out. That's not turned out to be the case. I think Wickham have kind of ruined things a little bit there. Obviously, Wrexham are doing quite well as well. So it's meant that they've had to, sort of settle for fourth place at this point in time, which is it shows how competitive League One's been. But basically, the point I'm trying to make is they'll be really focused on trying to get promotion to the Championship again, and they'll see this game against County as a big game for them. I think obviously it's a huge game for County as well. I'm actually trying to figure out in my head like what's the biggest game in the next sort of few matches. Is it Birmingham at home or is it Huddersfield away? And I can't really figure out which one is the more difficult game. I suppose an easy way out of it would be to say the next game is always your most important, and that of course is Huddersfield. But yeah, I think the sort of game where it's probably a little bit more of a level playing field might be against Huddersfield. I think Birmingham just completely played us off the park at their ground, obviously at the beginning of December. So I am a little bit worried about that game, but obviously it's the last game of Louis Barry as well. Try not to talk about Louis Barry, but yeah, I think I titled it Barry's Final Three as well, so I'm not helping myself here by not wanting to talk about him. Looking forward to the game though, looking forward to it. Obviously, I am going to be going. I don't know if it's on Sky or anything like that if you're not. But yeah, I think it's kind of mad as well to think that this is a club which just short of a decade ago was playing in the Premier League for a couple of seasons. It'll be interesting to go to the ground. I've never been before. I think it's a ground that holds roughly 24,500, which ranks at about the fifth biggest ground in League One this season. So could be a fair few at that game, especially with it being Boxing Day. Hopefully, good atmosphere in the away end. That's always. I think the last couple of games actually away have been really, really decent away atmospheres. Apart from maybe Stevenage, not so much. But I thought Birmingham. I thought the away end was great. I think Burton as well. Burton's away end was brilliant when we went there. So yeah, been quite happy with some of the away games this season from an atmosphere point of view. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the game. And I think, like I said before, I think it's the kind of game where it's going to be a tough one. You know that there's a chance you could lose it, but again, you don't want to back yourself to lose it. I think optimistically we'll win it. My head's telling me draw. My heart's telling me we'll go and win the game. But I think we'll go into a little bit of team news almost, and who would be the starting 11, who would be Dave Challoner's ideal starting 11, and then what would be my ideal starting 11, because that's usually how we kick things off in terms of the debate on the starting 11s. Now, people won't be able to see it on the screen, but I've basically got what I think Challoner will pick. I think it is a back three that he'll go with. It did look like we changed on Friday. It looks like we went back more to a sort of four at the back, almost. I say almost, it was a four at the back, I'm pretty sure. But I think he'll go back to a back three. I think he'll bring Callum Connolly back in, rightly or wrongly. I think that's what he'll decide to do. That back three will consist of obviously Connolly, Horsfall and Ethan Pye. Obviously Hinchliffe as the goalkeeper behind that back three as well. Southam Hales and Ibi Toure will be the two wing backs I think he'll go with. Lewis Spate and Callum Camps, the two central midfielders. Will Collar just behind the two strikers, and I think he'll go for Louis Barry and Cal Wotton. But obviously we've seen in some games as well when we play that three at the back that actually Collar goes to the right hand side a little bit as well, and Louis obviously to the left, with Wotton being the main out and out striker. That's the team I think he'll go with, but it's not the team I would go with. I would probably pick a slightly different team. I'd probably go more with a sort of 4-2-3-1 type of shape. And we were saying the other I think it was after the Stevenage game, we've got to make a lot of changes, or big changes need to be made. And Challoner didn't really make those changes against Peterborough. But I'd be tempted to make some big changes for this game. I would go with a different formation as to what I think Challoner will go with first of all. But we've got to have this conversation about the goalkeeper. People who watch this regularly will know my thoughts on the goalkeeping situation at County this season. Obviously, huge credit to Ben Hinchliffe, what he's done over the 8 or 9 seasons he's been at the football club. Fantastic. Even last season, I think he got the Golden Glove in League Two. Absolutely fantastic. Club legend without a doubt. Has been brilliant for us, and still has been this season as well. By the way, it's not that I've been critical of necessarily. He's done well in a lot of games this season when he has come back in. However, County did bring in Corey Adai in the summer. We can't pretend that didn't happen because it did. he did start the season in decent form. We did start the season with clean sheets. We did bring him in to be the number one goalkeeper. He was subbed at half time against Lincoln. He was then taken out the team following a 5-0 defeat to Wickham. And he was dropped due to bad performances, mistakes being made. And I think that that's what we've seen with Ben Hinchliffe in recent games. I think when he initially came in, we went on a bit of a winning run and also kept clean sheets as well. So those two you've got to sort of marry together. It's no coincidence. Clean sheets and we're playing better and scoring goals. It probably did come a little bit from the back. The way he probably commands his area probably helped a little bit at that point in time a bit more. But again, he's always going to have that advantage over Corey Idai in terms of command of his area because he's more familiar with the defence. So by that logic, you would never change the goalkeeper because he has better command of his area. If you're going to change a goalkeeper, that's going to be a short-term struggle. Is that you won't know, how the defence wants to set up as well. His command, his communication with the defence won't be as good initially. The only way you build that up is through playing games, with one another. And a lot of people who are in favour of Ben Hinchliffe starting over Adai, it's due to things like that. Now, obviously, there's other criticisms as well. Some people think that Adai doesn't get down to shots quick enough. Some people don't like his distribution, which is a fundamental reason as to why County brought him in. So that would make sense. If you don't think he's very good at distributing, and that's probably his big thing that he has over Ben Hinchliffe, then I can kind of see that point. But anyway, I would go with Adai in goal against Huddersfield. That's what I'm saying, but then I'm thinking about it as I'm saying out loud, and I'm thinking it's a huge game, away from home, Huddersfield. I can kind of see both arguments. I think Hinchliffe he had a really poor game actually against Peterborough. I think he had a couple of poor moments in the Stevenage game as well, where he could have potentially seen himself sent off. So he has been walking a bit of a tightrope. He has looked a little bit of a disaster in recent games. His distribution, his kicking as well with the ball has not been great. That's always been a problem with him, to be fair. So I do kind of lean towards giving Adai that opportunity again, just because it feels like it would be the right thing to do in terms of consistency, decision making. But at the same time, I also think it'd be a big call to. It was a big call to sort of put Hinchliffe back in goal. But I think that also it would be a huge call to bring Adai in on Boxing Day over Hinchliffe again. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see that one. But that's a long-winded way of me saying I would pick Adai in that team for me. A back four over a back three for me. Jay Mingy, Fraser Horsfall, Ethan Pye, and Ryan Rydell, I think would be a good back four to go with. You have the attacking influence of Rydell down the left-hand side. You've got the sort of more defensive aspects of Jay Mingy playing in that sort of right back position. But again, he's brilliant. He's a brilliant technical player, but he's also very, very quick as well. So I think he's a really good option on the ball down that right hand side. He's almost like a slightly better, and I'm saying relatively here, but Jay Mingy's a little bit like Wan-Bissaka in the sense that the pace he's got, the way he can get back, the way he can put in a tackle, the way he can win the ball, but he has better technical ability for League One level, let's say. So Jay Mingy, I think would be a good option in that right back position. I'm eager for him to play. I think he, at the moment Southern Hales is great, but he does struggle a little bit defensively. So that would be the back four I would go with. Then in midfield, I'd sort of go a little bit different as well. I'd go with Ollie Norwood alongside Lewis Bate. I just think that obviously Bate's been brilliant since he's come in, particularly the last couple of months as well. He seems to be finding his feet, literally, with some of those passing that he's been doing. But yeah, I just think Norwood comes in a little bit more experience alongside him, a bit more control in the game over maybe what Callum Camps offers as well. Norwood, Bate would be a solid central midfield. It gives us that control in the game, which we'll be hoping to try and get, especially away from home against a side like Huddersfield. Louis Barry on the left, of course, there's no arguments there on that one. I don't think anyone's debating who starts on that left-hand side. Right-hand side's a bit of an interesting one because there isn't anyone who's really taken that spot and made it their own so far this season. Odin Bailey came in on Friday night. I thought he did really, really well. It was a bit of a surprise that he started for me, but he came in and did really, really well. He would start on that right-hand side for me. The attacking midfield position's probably going to cause a little bit of debate on this because typically it would be Will Collar. But I actually thought he didn't have one of his best games on Friday night. And I think that we've struggled to create enough opportunities and enough good opportunities in recent games. And providing he's fit and available, I'd like to see Luis Fiorini play a little bit more behind, in that sort of position behind the striker. He had a game against Reading a couple of months back. I think it was maybe early October. It might have been late October actually. But around that period of time, we played Reading. It was a 4-1 win at Edgeley Park. I think it was a Tuesday night game, and I think he did really well in that game. He never really got back in the team again. He played in a couple of cup games, looked a little bit off the pace. But I'd like to see him play in a game where it actually matters, and just see what he can offer. Because we brought him in, I think we've got to give him opportunity. Um, Panini said Adai will be the number one in time to come. Well, I certainly hope so. Thanks to the contribution as well. Buck Fuddy, I'm not going to say that the other way around. Rumours going around that Wootton is injured, and from what I've seen, it'll be Diamond, Barry, and Tanto up top. I mean, I'd be for that. In fact, I was just going to get to the rest of that team because I was going to say Fiorini for me, Barry, Bailey, and then Tanto Laffy down the middle. So it's actually quite well timed that that sort of message coming in. For me, I think Diamond's an interesting one because there's moments like the Birmingham game. He was constantly, finding space down that right hand side against Birmingham, but he just doesn't know what to do with the ball when he gets it. He just doesn't seem to. Whereas I think Jaden Fevrier, I know he's injured, but Jaden Fevrier in that opportunity, in that same position as what Jack Diamond found himself in, I think he would offer a lot more. So yeah, I'm not completely convinced on Jack Diamond. I've heard a lot of good things about him. Even before he came to the club, I was hearing a lot of positive things. Obviously, he was at Sunderland as well. But since I've watched him play, he has flashes, little moments where he looks like, oh, he looks like an interesting player. But he just doesn't seem to have that end product, and he's nowhere near consistent enough. Again, I'll give him I'll cut him a bit of slack because I think he struggled to get game time. I do subscribe to the point that he was probably brought in to play on the left-hand side, and then Barry came back in on loan. Yeah, I'm not reading that comment out because we know what that means based on what's happened in his career previously. But yeah, I think he was brought in to play on that sort of left-hand side. Louis Barry obviously came in. Whether or not they brought Diamond in thinking they weren't going to get Barry and then they were able to get Barry, I don't know. But yeah, he struggled for game time is basically what I'm saying. So I think a lot of the players that have come in the summer have actually had it quite tough. Fiorini's one of those as well. But if it's true and Wootton is injured, I'm not sure how true that is, to be honest, because I've not heard anything to say otherwise. But I think irrespective of injuries, I think they need to change the striker. So I would go with Tanto Laffy down the middle. Obviously, he got the goal off the bench as well on Friday night, which turned out to be the winner. And yeah, I just think we need to try something different. I think the way that Peterborough played, they played very, very expansively out from the back, quite risky. And I actually think, whilst we did look to try and press them pretty quickly on, I think if we had Tanto Laffy pressing from the front early on, as opposed to Cal Wootton, we would have won the ball high up a lot more times and potentially, created goal scoring opportunities more and possibly won by a slightly bigger margin because I definitely think we could have beaten Peterborough by more goals than we did. I know we won 2-1. I'm a little bit disappointed that we didn't win that by more. Soz, I'm saying 3-1 County. That would be a strong result. Certainly would be a strong result. I think if we were to win 3-1 against Huddersfield away, that would be a statement win. But then again, you would look at it and go, but that's with Louis Barry in the team. I'm still intrigued to see how we can cope without Louis Barry because I think we've had just 2 wins in the league all season in games where Louis Barry hasn't scored. Peterborough being one, and I think the other one was Shrewsbury away. And obviously he was still influential on Friday night with the assist as well. I think County have to look at Marshall, the Huddersfield lad. He's done well for them. He's scored 6 goals, I think it is in the league so far this season on loan from West Ham, I believe. He's a player to look out for, but like I said, I think they've got players across the pitch. They've got a few other players that have chipped in with goals, and I think that's going to be the problem. Is obviously it looks like he's going to be a threat based on just looking at his stats alone, but there's quite a couple of players for them that can score goals, and I think that's why it's going to be hard for County to sort of pinpoint that one threat because if you focus on one, you leave the other exposed, and they can score goals as well. Whereas I think with County, this point in time, we're a lot easier to stop. It's basically, I mean, we saw it against Birmingham, doubled up on Barry, which meant then Diamond got in acres of space, but then couldn't really do anything with it. I'm hoping County don't rely on loans in January. We don't want another Barry situation where we fall in love with a player who isn't ours. No, I agree with that, but I think we're also at that level where we're not quite on the level to start buying a player or producing a player which is of that level. So I think we will end up bringing a player in on loan, and then I think we'll. I mean, to be honest, is Jack Diamond and Jaden Vevray meant to be those more long-term replacements for a player with that quality? Are we hoping that a Fevrier and a Diamond can become a player on the level of what Louis Barry is at this point in time, if that sort of makes sense? Fevrier, I could see it with at this point in time. I don't quite see that in Jack Diamond, to be honest. But yeah, I think it's going to be interesting. But Fiorini starting behind the striker, I just think it's a little bit of an out there. It's a bit of a curveball. It's a bit of an out there decision. But obviously, I don't think Chalmers will go with it. But it's something that excuse me, it's something that I would look to do. Just change the team up, and also sometimes by picking the team that the fans won't expect. Huddersfield won't see that coming either. So you throw a bit of a curveball in their plans. I'm not going to say go. I'm not saying going through the academy, but start as the money, and I think we appeal to a lot of players who want to move to a club that has a clear direction. I mean, that's the thing now. I mean, we've got to find the positives in what we've done with Louis Barry. We know he's going back. That's disappointing, but the positive side is that we've shown everyone in the Premier League now that we've turned a player which couldn't score he couldn't score at all in most of his other loan spells. Prior to arriving at County, we've turned a player like that into an absolute goal machine in 18 months. So that says that's a signal that's going off. That's an alert to all the Premier League teams now. County, look what Chalmers has done with Louis Barry, and anyone who's got a player which maybe is sort of on the fringes of the first team at the moment for Premier League side, young player coming through. Maybe they just want that sort of step up, maybe a loan spell somewhere. They'll be looking at County and they'll be going, "That's somewhere where I want my player to go there." Fans get behind them. They treat them like they're like their own. So the fans are on the side. The manager, the way he operates, and the way the players help bring that player into the dressing room to allow that player to feel confident enough to perform on the pitch like Barry has. That's what we have done. That's a statement. Do you think we should worry about Chalmers leaving for Championship club? I think we could have worried about that when we were in League Two. I think that's always been a concern. I think the one thing that sort of helps me sleep at night regarding that kind of question is the money and the projects that County have in place. I think that we're so close to that 2027 Championship by 2027. I think Chalmers can see it. He can see it happening, and I think if we go to the Championship, this is the question, isn't it? If we don't go up this season, I don't think he'll panic. If we don't go up next season, and he's still in situ, I think then he might look at if it's an interesting offer. I think then he might look to jump ship. But if he goes to the Championship this season, then Premier League teams will be looking at him. Look at Southampton; they've just sacked their manager. Teams at the bottom of the table were sacking their manager, and they start to look at managers lower down sometimes. Southampton haven't they gone for someone someone abroad in this case, but Challoner could be a conversation which could come up if County go up to Championship, Premier League team, mid-season, you find themselves near the bottom, looking to bring in a new manager. Challoner will be in that conversation without doubt. He's without doubt one of the best up and coming. I say up and coming because he's not an old manager by any means, but he's a huge name in throughout the EFL, and I think if you're a Premier League team, I'm not saying sort of high up Premier League team, obviously, but a low end Premier League team, if he gets to Championship, you're going to be looking at him because his record as a manager is phenomenal. He's never finished outside the playoff places, which gives me confidence that County will do that this season, with or without Barry. Somehow I think we'll find a way because it would be the first time that Chalmers hasn't achieved that in his managerial career. But then again, there's always a first time for everything, isn't there? But yeah, to answer your question, I do worry about it at some point. but I think not immediately, not in the immediate future. I think that this season, I think he'll stay irrespective of whether or not we get promoted or not. It's about next season. I think next season, I think we need to be promoted by 2027 to keep hold of Challoner. Um, that's exactly why I'm worried. Challoner may garner attention over Xmas and New Year's. I think he'll stay put. I don't see him going this season. But I think if we don't kick on next season, let's say we don't get promoted, I suppose the thing, it's actually weird because if we didn't get promoted this season but we got playoffs, a bit like the first season in League Two, and then next season we did get promoted, then that first season in the Championship, if it doesn't go well, let's say results aren't going well, it's mid-season, we're near the bottom, then he will leave. So it's one of them, isn't it? Even clubs who haven't sacked their manager yet will have him on their shortlist, 100%. I mean, clubs like Brighton, for example, they always operate in a way whereby even when a manager's in place, they've already got an idea of who the next manager will be. I'm not saying he'll go to Brighton, I'm not saying they're necessarily going to be looking at him, but what I'm saying is if Brighton do that, you'd imagine other clubs probably operate in that way as well. So there will be clubs that I think will look at it and go, there's a name. Challoner's doing well, promotion after promotion, basically, as a manager. He's on, he's like the Pep Guardiola, the Football League, isn't he? So yeah, I'm not worried immediately about that, but I think it is something to be worried about in the long term, or the mid to long term, I suppose. I think it's all about getting that promotion to Championship by 2027. I think once he still sees that in sight, I think he'll stick to the project. But I mean, look, he left Hartlepool in a way which, I think they were left disappointed by. So who knows? Who knows what will happen? But yeah, going back to the game on Boxing Day, I know I said tomorrow. Go back to the game on Boxing Day then. Team news, what people would want to go with. Score prediction as well. I mean, for me, I'm looking at it and going, like I say, my head's saying draw, my heart's saying County win. I've got to decide on one. I think I probably will end up going with my heart on this, and I'm going to say that County win this 2-1. I think that would be a brilliant result. It doesn't matter how well we play either. If we, as long as we come away with 3 points, I'll be happy with that. Especially going into the game against Rotherham away a couple of days afterwards. So yeah, I'm going to wrap it up there. For those that have watched it live, fantastic. For those that are watching it afterwards, fantastic as well. And I just want to say big thanks to everyone who's got helped me get to this position where I'm on 1,000 subscribers. It's brilliant. So yeah, a former Premier League team in League One is a crime. Yeah, Huddersfield, Bolton and Wigan as well. They played each other the other day, and that was a former Premier League fixture. So yeah, I think one way to look at it is they're in League One and they were in the Premier League. Where could County be in a couple of years? But yeah, I think I'll leave you on that thought about where County could be in a couple of years. Hopefully a better position than a negative position. So yeah, thanks to everyone who's watched live. Thanks to everyone who watches afterwards as well. Big thanks to everyone who's kept up with following the channel since they first saw it. It wouldn't be what it is without regular people watching it, and obviously new people coming in as well. And of course the comments, the community, it's all been fantastic. So yeah, big year coming up as well next year. Loads of ideas and plans, and I want to keep moving forward on that. But yeah, hopefully we'll end 2024 with, fingers crossed, 2 back-to-back wins. So yeah, thanks for tuning in, everyone. We will have the match vlog going out on Boxing Day when I get back home as well from Huddersfield, and hopefully it's a County win. So I'll leave you on that thought. Hopefully everyone has a good Christmas as well, and I'll see you before the new year. So thanks for tuning in.